Hello and welcome to this continuing third look, I think we're calling these third looks now, exploring session looking at Dido, Queen of Carthage by Christopher Marlowe and Thomas Nashe. We are up to, we're going to start Act 3 today in our slow burn walkthrough of the play. We're doing this for two reasons. One is our initial first look was a bit rushed. We did it in one session, and we all sort of powered through discussion a little too fast. The other reason to go through it again is also in prep for doing a full cast audio adaptation of this to be recorded before a live audience as well going forward, and also just general notes on how we might play around with this in the future. So we have in the room reading, surprise, surprise for anyone who's ever watched any of these videos before, reading Cupid as well as Anna and Juno is...
Hi, I'm Emma Kemp. I love playing Cupid. I'm an actor and I'm in London.
Reading Venus as well as Ascanius is...
Kyle DiRoberto. I'm in Tucson.
Reading Aeneas is...
Hi, I'm Francis Cox. I'm an actor and voice artist living in Amsterdam.
Reading Achates, Cloanthus, and maybe somebody else by the one of the other additional Trojans, I'm sure at some point, will be...
Alan in Suffolk, going a bit hoarse already.
Reading Dido, where Dido with their trusty helpmate is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. This is my dog, Scooter, and we live in the northwestern United States.
And joining us for the first time, be gentle everyone, reading Iarbus and Ilioneus is...
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen MacNeice. I'm an actor and I'm based in London.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and generally keeping us moving forward. So we are, as stated, starting Act 3. And Act 3, there's this awkward sort of structural thing. This is designed with an act structure in mind, that there are effectively breaks that are putatively supposed to happen between the acts, where some music might be playing, candles might be trimmed. So we have this closing of the previous scene where, okay, to be fair, Cupid exits and then Venus says 6 lines, but then Cupid comes straight back on again. And there is a question about how to finesse that a little bit. Is Cupid's exit really necessary? And certainly in an audio adaptation, probably isn't actually required per se. And we do have this question as to whether we're actually going to double Cupid and Ascanius just to be really confusing, or whether that's less confusing or not. So we're still playing with that as an idea. But at this point, as we're going to Act 3, Scene 1, we have the entrance of Cupid disguised as Ascanius. Cupid, take it away.
Now, Cupid, cause the Carthaginian queen to be enamoured of thy brother's looks. Convey this golden arrow in thy sleeve, lest she imagine thou art Venus' son. And when she strokes thee softly on the head, then shall I touch her breast and conquer her.
Enter Dido, Anna, and Iarbus.
How long, fair Dido, shall I pine for thee? 'Tis not enough that thou grant me love, but that I may enjoy what I desire. That love is childish, which consists in words.
Iarbus, know that thou, of all my wooers, and yet I have had many mightier kings, hast had the greatest favors I could give. I fear me Dido hath been counted light in being too familiar with Iarbus, albeit the gods do know no wanton thought had ever residence in Dido's breast.
But Dido is the favor I request.
Fear not, Iarbus. Dido may be thine.
And we're just going to pause there, partly because I've just realised there's doubling error, but also just that this is really the first introduction in the text of this side of what's going on here, of Iarbus effectively saying, are we going to get married? And Dido constantly sort of putting him off. And it's an interesting question because it's a question we were posing last time. Are they sort of already interested in each other? how much is Cupid actually responsible for what's going on in the play? I think we'll find in a moment that Dido's going to get supercharged in her interest in Iarbus, but not Iarbus, Aeneas. But there is this question that I'm interested also from the we were talking the other day as well, just to remind everyone where we are. That I think Alan may have pointed this out. This question of a connection with Queen Elizabeth at the time, who's someone who's constantly saying, No, I'm good. I'm good. Maybe not. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. So I'm just wondering if there's an interesting deliberate parallel there. I don't know if that matters for us. But yeah, this is all very much introducing plot. It's saying to the audience that Cupid is here and what Cupid is doing. And Cupid's got the arrows hidden. It's a hidden weapon. It's a concealed weapon of love here. So briefly pausing there. Anyone want to throw anything in at this juncture while I've stopped us before we even get started? Kyle.
I wondered if there might be kind of echoes of Sappho and Phao in this moment, and Cupid and Venus and Queen Elizabeth, because I think it is played around. I think this is played by the boys' company at this time. So I think that one was directly responding to Elizabeth. So.
Yeah, I mean the precise, because sometimes people disagree as to precisely when Dido is dated, but they're pretty much on top of each other. Sappho and Phao, the John Lilly play, which we've done, which again features Cupid quite prominently. Cupid, who pretty much just changed his sides. I think that's what's quite interesting. Cupid goes, actually, you know what? I'm going to follow this person, actually, not you, and goes rogue, which is a really interesting. The plays do seem to echo in interesting ways. Anything else before we move forward? No. For the moment, I'm just going to read Anna just for this scene, because clearly Cupid and Anna are going to clash for just a moment. So I'm just going to read a couple of lines of Anna's before we get into the scene as we go, and then we'll hand it back. Actually, no, it'd be silly if I do it. Alan, you be Anna for the moment. You're not on. There we are. That'll work. Remain as Cupid. Otherwise, we've been having this very serious conversation with Iarbus and Dido, and suddenly it switches. Anna, change the direction of the scene.
Look, sister, how Aeneas' little son plays with your garments and embraceth you.
No, Dido will not take me in her arms. I shall not be her son. She loves me not.
Weep not, sweet boy, thou shalt be Dido's son. Sit in my lap and let me hear thee sing.
And Cupid sings a song. We don't have the song. Don't worry about it now.
No more, my child. Now talk another while, and tell me where learnst thou this pretty song?
My cousin Helen taught it me in Troy.
How lovely is Ascanius when he smiles.
Will Dido let me hang about her neck?
I wag, and give thee leave to kiss her too.
What will you give me now? I'll have this fan.
Take it, Ascanius, for thy father's sake.
Come, Dido, leave Ascanius, let us walk.
Go thou away, Ascanius shall stay.
Ungentle queen, is this thy love to me?
Oh, stay, Iarbus, I'll go with thee.
And if my mother go, I'll follow her.
Why stayest thou here? Thou art no love of mine.
Iarbus die, seeing she abandons thee.
No, live, Iarbus. What hast thou deserved that I should say thou art no love of mine? Something thou hast deserved. Away, I say. Depart from Carthage. Come not in my sight.
Am I not king of rich Gaetulia?
Iarbus, pardon me, and stay a while.
Mother, look here.
What tellst thou me of rich Gaetulia? Am I not queen of Libya? Then depart.
I go to feed the humour of my love, yet not from Carthage for 1,000 worlds.
Iarbus.
Doth Dido call me back?
No, but I charge thee, never look on me.
Then pull out both mine eyes, or let me die.
And exit Iarbus. I'm just going to pause us here. This is a really weird bit of business, isn't it? Because the whole point of what Cupid is doing is going to be stabbing her in a moment, so that when she sees Aeneas, she falls in love with him. But she's causing division already. He's causing. Is Cupid doing this? Is Cupid just so compelling that she can't be drawn away, or is Iarbus just a bit of a dick? Because he's quite unreasonable, really. I mean, he's like, give me attention, give me attention, give me attention. You're playing with a child. Why aren't you talking to me? It's like he's treating the child as a genuine threat. Yeah, it's really weird. It's not bad weird. I'm really interested in what this scene does, but I'm not quite sure what it's doing, and it's quite interesting. How was it to read Iarbus in that scene? Because, as I say, he hasn't done much before this, so in a sense, this is a first substantive sort of attack at him. Yes, Stephen, did you have any when you were reading him?
I think he's just not used to being made to wait, or he is a king, isn't he? So I think it's this idea that even for a child or anything, he is someone important who should be, I'm worthy of her time, But it's so it's this entitled sort of sense that he has, I think.
Yeah,
but as you say, I think it is difficult to know if this is Cupid moving, behind the scenes, or causing havoc, or if this is just Iarbus's personality. It's just somebody who's used to being obeyed and used to being waited on.
Or it could be that he is so in love. If Cupid, we could have it that Cupid has just stung him up the arse as well with his arrow, and suddenly his love is unreasonable, whereas before it was maybe he's there as a formal suitor, and then suddenly he's behaving like this jealous wretch. I don't think that's one for an audio adaptation. It's an interesting question about how often we have the gods on stage throughout this. If we're doing a stage version, would we have Venus wandering? Would we have the gods just sort of wandering around, maneuvering people more? How much agency do any of these characters have? Thoughts to mull on. Alan?
Or is Dido simply being a coquette?
Well, Lynn?
I mentioned this in a previous session for a different play, that courtship is really highly stereotyped, even in our own day. If we could get a little distance on it, the way couples woo is actually heavily scripted, and the script in the early modern era is that the man pursued the woman and the woman said no for a while, and then eventually, oh, you won me over. So I think Stephen's just right. I think that Iarbus is prepared to play the script. He's going to hold out for a while, but he's a king. Why would anyone turn him down? So he's certainly expecting to win her over in the end. He just doesn't know how long she's going to make him wait. And then she seems genuinely hostile to his presence by fits. I mean, that's what I find really is hard to make persuasive in this scene, is that every other line she says stay, and every other line she says go away. Like, it would take a much more skillful actor than I am make those pivots seem genuine.
Kyle?
Yeah, I was just I like what Lynn just said, and it kind of through what I was thinking, but I just thought that he seemed like the one, that kind of proverbial one that loves too much, and so gets rejected for that reason. That's how I was reading him.
Okay, well, let's gather more. I've stopped and started a lot more than we normally do. Anyway, Iarbus has exited. Anna continued with chat to Dido.
Wherefore does Dido bid Iarbus go?
Because his loathsome sight offends mine eye, and in my thoughts is trined another love Oh, Anna, didst thou know how sweet love were? Full soon wouldst thou abjure this single life.
Poor soul, I know too well the sour of love. Oh, that Iarbus could but fancy me.
Is not Aeneas fair and beautiful?
Yes, and Iarbus foul and favourless.
Is he not eloquent in all his speech?
Yes, and Iarbus rude and rustical.
Name not Iarbus, but sweet Anna, say, is not Aeneas worthy Dido's love?
Oh, sister, were you empress of the world, Aeneas well deserves to be your love. So lovely is he that where'er he goes, the people swarm to gaze him in the face.
But tell them, none shall gaze on him but I, that their gross eye beams, lest their gross eye beams taint my lover's cheeks. Anna, good sister Anna, go for him, lest with these sweet thoughts I melt clean away.
Then, sister, you'll abjure Iarbus' love?
Yet must I hear that loathsome name again? Run for Aeneas, or I'll fly to him.
And exit Anna. Cupid's still on.
You shall not hurt my father when he comes.
No, for thy sake I'll love thy father well. O dull-conceited Dido, that till now didst never think Aeneas beautiful, but now, for quittance of this oversight, I'll make me bracelets of his golden hair. His glistering eyes shall be my looking-glass, his lips an altar where I'll offer up as many kisses as the sea hath sands. Instead of music, I will hear him speak. His looks shall be mine only library, and thou, Aeneas, Dido's treasury, in whose fair bosom I will lock more wealth than 20,000 Indias can afford. Oh, here he comes. Love, love, give Dido leave to be more modest than her thoughts admit, lest I be made a wonder to the world.
And we're just going to pause there before everyone comes in. So clearly, you've been Cupidized earlier. We just hadn't really fully recognised it. So maybe it's during. Is it Cupid's song? Is there a moment that we miss because it's not marked? There isn't a marked specific place. There isn't a stage direction given us to say when it happens, and it's obviously not a visual thing either, because it's not like you get hit and the first person you see is the next person. You know, there's clearly a name written on this arrow as to who you're going to love. It's not as random as all that. So it's an interesting question as to how we throw that in. So yeah, it needs to be somewhere where Cupid is taken in her arms, and that is the bit where Iarbus is obviously no longer getting the attention from her, and that explains perhaps why he's being so arsey later on. Lynn.
Yeah, one thing that might help is if you had someone compose a song about Aeneas, about what a hero he is and how amazing he is. So the song is kind of what puts the idea in Dido's head, or at least it signals to the audience that what's going on is Cupid is in the guise of Ascanius is making Dido fall in love with Aeneas.
And of course, you know, the Ascanius there is you know the son. So you know maybe there's a certain logical thread there of, you know, she's looking at the son and she's thinking of the father.
Like, oh, I could have a boy that looks like this if we got married.
Okay, so we need to find, because you know we need a sound effect moment. It can't be a vague thing. It has to happen somewhere. For thy father's sake, with the root before that. Anyway, that's a note to self for going forward. Let us see what the results are, however. So Enter Aeneas, Achates, all the chaps come in. Dido, say hello to them.
Carthage, how doth Carthage please your lord?
That will Aeneas show your majesty.
Aeneas, art thou there?
I understand your highness sent for me.
No, but now thou art here, tell me, in sooth, in what might Dido highly pleasure thee?
So much have I received at Dido's hands, as without blushing I can ask no more. Yet, Queen of Afric, here my ships unrigged, my sails all rent in sunder with the wind, my oars broken, and my tackling lost. Yea, all my navy split with rocks and shelves, nor stern nor anchor have our maimed fleet. Our masts the furious winds struck overboard, which piteous wants if Dido will supply, we will account her author of our lives.
Aeneas, I'll repair thy Trojan ships conditionally that thou shalt stay with me and let Achates sail to Italy. I'll give thee tackling made of rivaled gold, wound on the bark of odoriferous trees, oars of massy ivory, full of holes, through which the water shall delight to play. Thy anchor shall be hewed from crystal rocks, which if thou lose, shall shine above the waves. The masts whereon thy swelling sails shall hang, hollow pyramids of silver plate, the sails of folded lawn, where shall be wrought the wars of Troy, but not Troy's overthrow. For ballast, empty Dido's treasury. Take what ye will, and leave Aeneas here. Achates, thou shalt be so seemly clad as sea-born nymphs shall swarm about thy ships, and wanton mermaids court thee with sweet songs, flinging in favors of more sovereign worth than Thetis hangs about Apollo's neck, so that Aeneas may but stay with me.
Wherefore would Dido have Aeneas stay?
To war against my bordering enemies. Aeneas, think not Dido is in love, for if that any man could conquer me, I had been wedded ere Aeneas came. See where the pictures of my suitors hang, and are not these as fair may be?
I saw this man at Troy, ere Troy was sacked.
I this in Greece, when Paris stole fair Helen.
This man and I were at Olympia's games.
Ah, yes, the ever pointless Sergestus. I know this face. He is a Persian born. I travelled with him to Aetolia.
Sorry, that's me. And I in Athens with this gentleman, unless I be deceived, disputed once.
But speak, Aeneas, know you none of these?
No, madam, but it seems that these are kings.
All these and others which I never saw have been most urgent suitors for my love. Some came in person, others sent their legates, yet none obtained me. I am free from all, and yet, God knows, entangled unto one. This was an orator, and thought by words to compass me, and yet he was deceived. And this a Spartan courtier, vain and wild, but his fantastic humors pleased not me. And this was Alcyone, a musician, but played he ne'er so sweet, I let him go. This was the wealthy king of Thessaly, but I had gold enough, and cast him off. This Meleager's son, a warlike prince, but weapons agree not with my tender years. The rest are such as all the world well knows, yet now I swear by heaven, and him I love, I was as far from love as they from hate.
Oh, happy shall he be whom Dido loves.
Then never say that thou art miserable, because it may be thou shalt be my love, yet boast not of it, for I love thee not, and yet I hate thee not. If I speak, I shall betray myself. Aeneas, come, we two will go a-hunting in the woods, but not so much for thee, thou art but one, as for Achates and his followers.
And they exit. Okay, some interesting things in here. All this stuff about the suitors and the various pictures that we see. I'm certainly thinking for the audio adaptation, the various Trojans going, I recognise this guy, I recognise this guy. I'm kind of thinking they might quietly disappear and just go stick to Dido and Aeneas. I kind of feel that, everybody else in this scene is utterly irrelevant. It is one of those plays where you've just got Aeneas and other people who are nearby, and though they get a name check and they vaguely have a character, they're not. I'm not sure if they're really there except for as ballast a lot of the time. So I wonder about that. Certainly for audio purposes, we want to reduce the number of characters you are focusing on. There can be other voices, but you want to keep numbers in scenes relatively small because otherwise nobody remembers who they are. Alan.
Yeah, I think I would probably keep in those lines of I recognise him, but assigning them to a named character, it does seem tad OTT.
Mm. Yes,
voice from the crowd.
Mm. And it is interesting as just sort of going, look at all the people who are hot for me.
Yeah, right.
And the way Dido and Aeneas and sort of working together, and I kind of wonder if Cupid wasn't here, would this scene still kind of be playing out? I'm curious actually, because they're not uninterested in each other. It's just a question of would Dido have gone all the way? I suspect maybe not. Maybe would there still be a maybe for Aeneas? But would he get his ship sorted out? That's the question. Would he get his ship sorted out?
That's what he cares about.
So, other thoughts before we move into the next scene? It took us a long time to get to the end of this one. But that's good stuff. Cupid. Nice stuff from Cupid. I like Cupid. Cupid is nicely disturbing.
Which is a good characterization for Cupid, nicely disturbing.
Yeah, it's our typical early modern Cupid. Just definitely not one you want to involve in any sort of St. Valentine's Day card application. They're just slightly wrong. Okay, so we have right. Yes, we have. Ascanius, we return to the sleeping Ascanius as we go into Act 3, Scene 2, and this is our only appearance by Juno. We've had references to Juno, but we haven't encountered them before. So enter Juno to Ascanius, who lies asleep.
Here lies my hate, Aeneas, cursed brat, the boy wherein false destiny delights, the heir of fury, the favourite of the fates, that ugly imp that shall outwear my wrath, and wrong my deity with high disgrace. But I will take another order now, and raise the eternal register of time. Troy shall no more call him her second hope, nor Venus triumph in his tender youth, for here, in spite of heaven, I'll murder him, and feed infection with his let-out life. Say, Paris, now shall Venus have the ball? Say, vengeance, now shall her Ascanius die? Oh no, God wot, I cannot watch my time, nor quit good turns with double fee down told. I am simple, without mind to hurt, and have no gall at all to grieve my foes. But lustful Jove and his adulterous child shall find it written on confusion's front that only Juno rules in Ramnus town.
Enter Venus.
What should this mean? My doves are back returned, who warn me of such danger pressed at hand to harm my sweet Ascanius' lovely life. Juno, my mortal foe, what make you here? Avaunt, old witch, and trouble not my wits.
By Venus, that such causeless words of wrath should e'er defile so fair a mouth as thine. Are not we both sprung of celestial race? and banquet as two sisters with the gods. Why is it then displeasure should disjoin whom kindred and acquaintance co-unite?
Out, hateful hag, thou wouldst have slain my son, had not my doves discovered thy intent. But I will tear thy eyes from forth thy head, and feast the birds with their blood-shotten balls, if thou but lay thy finger on my boy.
Is this, then, all the thanks that I shall have for saving him from snakes and serpent stings that would have killed him, sleeping as he lay? What, though I was offended with thy son, and wrought him mickle woe on sea and land, when, for the hate of Trojan Ganymede that was advanced by my Hebe's shame, and Paris, judgment of the heavenly ball, I mustered all the winds unto his wreck, and urged each element to his annoy, yet now I do repent me of his ruth, and wish that I had never wronged him so. Bootless, I saw, it was to war with fate, that hath so many unresisted friends. Wherefore I changed my counsel with the time, and planted love where envy erst had sprung.
Sister of Jove, if that thy love be such as these thy protestations do paint forth, we two as friends one fortune will divide. Cupid shall lay his arrows in my lap, and to a scepter change his golden shafts. Fancy and modesty shall live as mates, and thy fair peacocks by my pigeons perch. Love, my Aeneas, and desire is thine. The day, the night, my swans, my sweets are thine.
More than melodious are these words to me, that overcloy my soul with their content. Venus, sweet Venus, how may I deserve such amorous favours at thy beauteous hand? But that thou mayst more easily perceive how highly I do prize this amity, hark to a motion of eternal league, which I will make in quittance of thy love. Thy son, thou knowest, with Dido now remains, and feeds his eyes with favours of her court. She, likewise, in admiring spends her time, and cannot talk or think of aught but him. Why should not they, then, join in marriage, and bring forth mighty kings to Carthage town, whom casualty of sea hath made such friends? And Venus, let there be a match confirmed betwixt these two, whose loves are so alike, and both our deities, conjoined in one, shall chain felicity unto their throne.
Well could I like this reconcilement's means, but much I fear my son will never consent, whose armed soul already on the sea darts forth her light unto Lavinia's shore.
Fair queen of love, I will divorce these doubts, and find my way to weary such fond thoughts. This day they both a hunting forth will ride into the woods adjoining to these walls, when, in the midst of all their gamesome sports, I'll make the clouds dissolve their watery works, and drench Sylvanus' dwellings with their showers. Then in one cave the queen and he shall meet, and interchangeably discourse their thoughts, whose short conclusion will seal up their hearts unto the purpose which we now propound.
Sister, I see you savor of my wiles. Be it as you will have it for this once. Meantime, Ascanius shall be my charge, whom I will bear to Ida in my arms, and couch him in Adonis' purple down.
And they exit. So this is. I mean, it's not quite a curveball, but it is an interesting direction that this play pushes us in. Because it's what the horse trading between gods as to what they want the humans to do. And in a sense, it's what Juno proposes isn't inherently that far from what Venus was sort of doing anyway. Venus was going, make her fall in love with him so that the boats get repaired. And Juno's going, well, why don't they get married, settle down, have kids? It'd be nice. And Venus is sort of going along with that, presumably just to make sure that she can take Ascanius away and make sure that not horribly murdered, which was how the scene started. And it's quite interesting that this conflict between these two characters can be negotiated down to a much more reasonable position, which I'm quite interested in. It's doing a lot of work, this scene. Lynn?
Well, are they negotiating? Or is this all duplicitous? They still hate each other. Oh, darling, you look great. I think your actors need to kind of decide what their subtext is, what's going on. Is this a genuine negotiation, or do neither one of them trust each other at all? Venus knows Juno is lying. Juno knows Venus is lying. Venus knows that Juno knows that Venus is lying. So it's like, how fake is this rapprochement, or is it genuinely okay? Let's bury the hatchet and just have Aeneas get married and settle down in Carthage. That way, everybody gets something of what they want. And I don't think a reference to the Aeneid is helpful here, because Marlowe's gone pretty far off that narrative. I mean, I don't think Iarbus and Anna are even characters in the poem.
Marlowe has made some fairly fundamental changes to elements of this text. I mean, this is I think the last time, apart from Cupid, I don't think we see Venus again. It's the only time we see Juno. There might, I don't know, maybe Venus pops in visually, but I don't think she says anything else anymore. So it's like the gods are sort of, they're still in on this, but they sort of, we will have one heavenly messenger turn up later on to give them all a kick up the behind, plot-wise. But as I say, in terms of our primaries here, Venus sort of slips away. So yeah, it's a really interesting question. Is Venus intending to, I suspect that Juno is perhaps taken in by Venus here, but I would be very surprised if Venus is going to go with this at all. I think, as far as Venus is concerned, she wants to just placate Juno until she can get Ascanius safe, because she doesn't want the child to die, because she's basically standing over a child saying, I'm going to kill him. And in the short term, none of this is against Venus's plans. Venus wants them to fall in love. So, hey, you want to organise a rain shower that forces them into a cave for some rumpy-pumpy action. You do that. You do that. Again, it's a relatively straightforward scene in the sense there's two people talking. We need to give some impression as to who they are, so we need to probably have some awkward initial, sound effects and things to indicate that they are gods, and that kind of stuff. But again, very little here that's actually complicated. Even the stuff earlier when I was sort of looking at the songs, going, do we need the songs? Are the songs actually essential? Not really sure they are. So I'm increasingly looking at the text as being a lot more straightforward than it potentially could have been. Any other thoughts before we go into possibly the last scene of the act? I think it is. No, two more scenes in the act. Unless there's another one after that. No, two more scenes in the act. And so structurally, usually these act structures are important. Any other thoughts? No one is waving at me. We will move on. Okay, so let's see what happens here. So everybody enters, basically. Dido, Aeneas, Anna, Iarbus, Cupid, and followers, and Achates. Yes, I think that's none of the other additional random Romans. Trojans, rather. There'll be Romans later on. Give it time. Okay, Dido, take it away.
Okay. Aeneas, think not but I honour thee, that thus in person go with thee to hunt. My princely robes thou seest are laid aside, whose glittering pomp Diana's shroud supplies. All fellows now, disposed alike into sport. The woods are wide, and we have store of game. Fair Trojan, hold my golden bow a while, until I gird my quiver to my side. Lords, go before, we two must talk alone.
Gentle, can she wrong Iarbus so? I'll die before a stranger have that grace. We two will walk alone. What words be these?
What makes Iarbus here of all the rest? We could have gone without your company.
But love and duty led him on, perhaps, to press beyond acceptance to your sight.
Why, man of Troy, do I offend thine eyes? Or art thou grieved thy betters press so nigh?
How now, Gaetulian, are you grown so brave to challenge us with your comparisons? Peasant, go seek companions like thyself, and meddle not with any that I love. Aeneas, be not moved at what he says, for other while he will be out of joint.
Women may wrong by privilege of love, but should that man of men, Dido, accept, have taunted me in these opprobrious terms, I would have either drunk his dying blood, or else I would have given my life in gage.
Huntsman, why pitch you not your toils apace and rouse the Lightfoot deer from forth their lair?
Sister, see Ascanius in his pomp, bearing his hunt spear bravely in his hand.
Yea, little son, are you so forward now?
I, mother, I shall one day be a man, and better able unto other arms. Meantime, these wanton weapons serve my war, which I will break betwixt a lion's jaws.
What? Darest thou look a lion in the face?
Aye, and outface him too, do what he can.
How like his father speaketh he in all.
And mount I live to see him sack rich Thebes, and load his spear with Grecian princes' heads, then I would wish me with Anchises' tomb, and dead to honour that hath brought me up.
And might I live to see thee shipped away, and hoist aloft on Neptune's hideous hills, then would I wish me in fair Dido's arms, and dead to scorn that hath pursued me so.
Stout friend Achates, dost thou know this wood?
As I remember, here you shot the deer that saved your famished soldiers' lives from death, when first you set your foot upon the shore. And here we met fair Venus, virgin-like, bearing her bow and quiver at her back.
Oh, how these irksome labours now delight, and overjoy my thoughts with their escape. Who would not undergo all kind of toil, to be well stored with such a winter's tale?
Aeneas, leave these dumps and let's away, some to the mountains, some to the soil, you to the valleys, thou unto the house.
Exeunt all except for Iarbus.
Aye, this is it which wounds me to the death. To see a Phrygian far fet o'er the sea, preferred before a man of majesty. O love, O hate, O cruel women's hearts, that imitate the moon in every change, and like the planets ever love to range. What shall I do, thus wronged with disdain? Revenge me on Aeneas or on her? On her, fond man, that were to war against heaven, and with one shaft provoke 10,000 darts. This Trojan's end will be thy envy's aim, whose blood will reconcile thee to content, and make love drunken with thy sweet desire. But Dido, that now holdeth him so dear, will die with very tidings of his death. But time will discontinue her content, and mould her mind unto new fancies' shapes. O God of heaven, turn the hand of fate unto that happy day of my delight. And then, what then? Iarbus shall but love. So doth he now, though not with equal gain. That resteth in the rival of thy pain, who ne'er will cease to soar till he be slain.
And he exits, and the scene concludes. Again, lots of little things going on here. It's nice Iarbus gets a speech to articulate some of his issues, and that's giving us more for him. And certainly Act 3 is really giving us a character, whereas he was just some guy in Acts 1 and 2. But yeah, it's this weird moment when they have a callback. Do you remember when we were first starving to death? I killed a thing over. Oh yeah, you killed the thing. Yeah. Oh, this is halcyon days. It's this odd little moment. I don't know what it adds actually to this particular scene. I'm curious about it, why it's here. everything else is sort of setting up things, and we're off to the hunt, and there's more bickering with Dido shunning Iarbus, which is leading to the speech at the end. I say it's just this interesting. And a name calling of Venus, who of course was in the previous scene. But yes, just an odd little moment. I'm not quite sure what it's doing. I'm curious by it. Any thoughts? Anyone else having? I'm not a Guinness or anything. I'm just curious by it. Any thoughts from the room on that, or any other element of this scene? Again, fairly straightforward outdoor wood type setting. Wind blowing, birds singing, storm coming. End of scene, storm, thunder and lightning, rain, sound effects. Or any thoughts on Iarbus here as well? I mean, his reaction's almost as extreme as everybody else's. I mean, there's a lot of extremity to people's feelings, which is interesting. Lynn.
Yeah, what I remember of this from having read it before is that it's very interested in the emotions, the soap opera. It's really less about fate and the gods and the politics, although that's present. But the play puts a lot of emphasis on the love triangle, the love quadrangle, because Anna is involved. That she loves Iarbus, Iarbus loves Dido, Dido loves Aeneas, and Aeneas gotta go, got fate. So I mean, that's the tragedy here isn't it isn't really, as I remember, the big scale one. It's the human one. It's the one of intense human emotions. That's what the play seems to be interested in. So that's what's being served by Iarbus, having that kind of stage time to sort of wallow in his conflict.
Yes, because it's interesting. We've only had that little mini hint as to where Anna's placed in this love rhombus, just a few lines saying, "Oh, if only you knew how badly I was in love as well," and that will get more of a thing going on. What I quite like is when Aeneas tries to step in and be a little diplomatic, of going, "Oh, Iarbus was just saying this. It's for everything to try to deflate the situation," and Iarbus is going, "Man of Troy." I mean, it really is. It's clear he does not want Aeneas stepping in any. He doesn't want him to be nice. He does not want that option. I did enjoy that moment. That was really nice, because it gives Dido's next line really the nice spin as well, because it's your "Why, man of Troy? How now, Gertulian?" Because it's just the worst thing Iarbus could do in this situation is just act jealous in a very obvious public way. I mean, it's just so unattractive, man. It just doesn't work. Any other thoughts? Again, relatively straightforward scene. Nice stuff. Alan.
Yeah, it almost struck me that you could do the Juno and Venus scene where you've got handbags at dawn, and then you've got the follow-up here with Iarbus and Aeneas.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the Venus and Juno scene is, it's structurally there to be in between the two scenes with Dido and Aeneas. It does. You don't actually need it at all. Actually, arguably, you don't need Juno turning up. All you need is Venus saying, "I'm just going to make them fall in love and go in a cave." So it's an interesting complication that doesn't necessarily go anywhere, and it is interesting that it's there and doing that work. So I don't think the play actually structurally needs it. I'm not against it. Again, I quite like it when plays do interesting things that are not necessarily wholly necessary, as long as they're well done. Okay, let us go to where we've all been. Well, let's get to where let's head to the Barry White scene. So, Act 3, Scene 4. There is a storm Enter Aeneas and Dido in the cave at several times. I will check how authentic that sounds. Like an authentic stage direction. It's a not very helpful stage direction, but yeah, we'll look into that one another time. Anyway, Storm, Dido, Aeneas.
Aeneas,
Dido,
tell me, dear love, how found you out this cave?
by chance, sweet queen, as Mars and Venus met.
Why, that was in a net, where we are loose. Yet I am not free. Oh, would I were.
Why, what is it that Dido may desire and not obtain, be it in human power?
The thing that I will die before I ask, and yet desire to have before I die.
It is not aught Aeneas may achieve.
Aeneas, no, although his eyes do pierce.
What? Hath Iarbus angered her in aught? And will she be avenged on his life?
Not angered me, except in angering thee.
Who then of all so cruel may he be, that should detain in thy eye in his defects?
That the man that I do eye where'er I am, whose amorous face like Paean sparkles fire, when as he butts his beams on Flora's bed, Prometheus hath put on Cupid's shape, and I must perish in his burning arms. O Aeneas, quench these flames.
What ails my queen? Is she fallen sick of late?
Not sick, my love, but sick I must conceal the torment that it boots me not reveal. And yet I speak, and yet I'll hold my peace. Do shame her worst, I will disclose my grief. Aeneas, thou art he. What did I say? Something it was that now I have forgot.
What means fair Dido by this doubtful speech?
Nay, nothing. But Aeneas loves me not.
Aeneas' thoughts dare not ascend so high as Dido's heart, which monarchs might not scale.
It was because I saw no king like thee, whose golden crown might balance my content. And now that I have found what to effect, I follow one that loveth fame for me, and rather had seemed fair in Siren's eyes than to the Carthage queen that dies for him.
If that your majesty can look so low, as my despised worth that shun all praise, with this my hand I give to you my heart, and vow by all the gods of hospitality, by heaven and earth, and my brother's bow, by Paphos, Capys, and the purple sea, from whence my radiant mother did ascend, and by this sword that saved me from the Greeks, never to leave these new upreared walls, whilst Dido lives and rules in Juno's town, never to like or love any but her.
What more than Delian music do I hear? It calls my soul from forth his living seat to move unto the measures of delight. Kind clouds that sent forth such a courteous storm as made disdain to fly to fancy's lap. Stout love, in mine arms make thy Italy, whose crown and kingdom rest at thy command. Sichaeus, not Aeneas be thou called, the king of Carthage, not Anchises' son. These golden bracelets and this wedding ring, wherewith my husband wooed me yet a maid, and be thou king of Libya by my gift.
Gives lots of gifts, goes into the cave, and some stuff happens during the mini interval. We've been in this situation before where people exit and have some fun while there is an overt gap. I think it's something really interesting about Aeneas is vowing. You know, he's vowing by the gods of hospitality, by heaven and earth. Those gods of hospitality, that's quite an important one not to break. You do not mess with hospitality. Heaven and earth. He then goes off on a bit. I might cut one or two of these vowels. I'm not that keen about the purple sea when my radiant mother did ascend. But he can swear by his sword. That's fine as well. But yeah, it's a bit much. But yeah, it's not a very long scene, and you know, we are diving into that sort of soap opera territory, aren't we? It's all emotion. It's all out there. Any, again, structural points really here? It's raindrops keep falling on my head. Sound effects throughout this. It's all quite straightforward. I keep wanting to have Cupid just sitting in the corner, just going, just wild take of lots of Cupid just giggling, just wandering around doing that. And again, here's the question. We had this question earlier on. How into her is Aeneas? He seems quite into her here. It seems to have built across. It does seem to be genuine, but we were sort of asking this at the beginning of the play. He was definitely taken. He was taken by her when she first appeared. How genuine is Aeneas's affections here? Obviously, it goes a bit wrong later on. Francis.
He seems a bit slow on the uptake because there's Dido going, "Quench my flames, Aeneas," and he's like, "What's wrong?" Quench my flames is pretty. Okay, euphemistic, but it's pretty clear.
And, the guy has a son, so this isn't his first rodeo. Surely he has some experience of this. But yeah, he doesn't seem to be getting it, does he? Or maybe he just doesn't want to push it. I don't know. But he's thinking of Italy. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Italy, always Italy. Alan.
Or it might be the gods of hospitality don't make a passing hostess.
Any more for Act 3? So that's a unit. Act 3 as a unit is very effective. It really is setting up and sets up and delivers on the Dido Aeneas setup and sets us in this other path and delivers us Iarbus, basically, who's not really been a character until now. And so there's that other element in my mind of thinking of this. We were talking about a soap opera, thinking about delivering this maybe as an episodic thing. Episode 3's got some good stuff. That's sort of how I'm maybe thinking about that as well. Okay, any other thoughts before we dive into Act 4? Okay. Well, it is. Oh, Alan.
Yeah, just a quick question with the upcoming scene. You might want to review the casting. Achates and Anna talk.
Oh yes, Emma. If we could be Anna for this, I don't think we have any child action, as it were, in this.
No, sorry, we have Cupid is on.
Is there a Cupid?
Cupid is on.
Doesn't say anything. Yeah, I don't think we. Oh no, we've got an Ascanius doted, haven't we? That's interesting. Is that the real Ascanius, or is that supposed to be Cupid?
No, it's Cupid as.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's an error there. I will put in bold. Oh well, I'll read that line. It's fine. Be Anna for now, Emma. Okay, Act 4, Scene 1. Enter Achates, Cupid, Ascanius, Iarbus, and Anna.
Did ever men see such a sudden storm, or day so clear, so suddenly o'ercast?
I think some fell enchantress dwelleth here, that can call them forth whenas she please, and dive into black tempest's treasury, whenas she means to mask the world with clouds.
In all my life I never knew the like. It hailed, it snowed, it lightened all at once.
I think it was the devil's revelling night. There was such a hurly-burly in the heavens. Doubtless Apollo's axle tree is cracked, or aged Atlas' shoulder out of joint. The motion was so violent.
In all this coil, where have you left the queen?
Nay, where's my warlike father? Can you tell?
Behold, where both of them come forth the cave.
Come forth the cave? Can heaven endure this sight? Iarbus, curse that unrevenging Jove, whose flinty darts slept in Typhoeus' den, whilst these adulterers surfeited with sin. Nature, why madest me not some poisonous beast, that with the sharpness of my edged sting I might have staked them both into the earth, whilst they were sporting in this darksome cave?
And they've taken quite a while to walk out of the cave, but now they finally have, Aeneas and Dido.
The air is clear, and southern winds are whist. Come, Dido, let us hasten to the town, since gloomy Aeolus doth cease to frown.
Achates and Ascanius, well met.
Fair Anna, how escaped you from the shower?
As others did, by running to the wood.
But where were you, Iarbus, all this while?
Not with Aeneas in the ugly cave.
I see. Aeneas sticketh in your mind. But I will soon put by that stumbling block and quell those hopes that thus employ your cares.
And they exit. Pause there for a moment. There's a nice little bit of reproach in Anna's line, as others did by running to the wood. There's just a hint of sisterly, maybe this is not the way we do things. Reproach there. Obviously, Iarbus is all the way down the other side, and Iarbus is really leaning into just the whole entitled. Toxic masculinity thing. It's all there, and of course, it's all there in an aside. This darksome cave. There's all sorts of stuff that runs into that. Again, not that many people on. We kind of need a Achates there to be on, to be another person. It's interesting. Is Anna sort of taking Arbus's side to a degree here, in the sense that she wants to be on his side because she loves him, but is that maybe a logic there? I'm wondering. I'm just thinking about the way their relationship may be running. I also like that the southern winds are wished. I think that's I really sort of enjoy that. Dishevelled cave acting. But again, the dialogue is doing all of the description. It's telling us everything. And I've moved the stage direction to earlier now, so that's a little more helpful. Any other thoughts on that? So there's an interesting structural point here of the scene that everybody exits, and then we have another scene. So I'm wondering if actually the act structure isn't as perfect as it should be. Whether actually maybe this first scene should be at the end of the previous act, if we're doing an episodic thing, because Iarbus would have to exit and then come straight back on again. That's an interesting structural quirk. Alan?
Or is it Exian all but?
Well, the next scene requires setup. So for the listeners at home, Act 4, Scene 2, we've got a sacrifice. There are servants this is something he's obviously prepped. This is something that he's gone away after the previous scene and gone, right, okay, I'm going to kill some animals. Let's get some entrails out.
Okay.
It'll maybe it'll cheer him up a bit. I don't know. It's that kind of guy. So it's an interesting structural issue there. I don't think anything's necessarily missing. I'm just wondering, say, whether the act is just displaced, and that's actually where the act break should be, so that you have a bit of time to trim the candles, have some appropriate music, and then Iarbus comes in at that moment. So it's an interesting question. Anyway, let's have some sacrificing. Enter Iarbus to sacrifice.
Come, servants, come, bring forth the sacrifice, that I may pacify that gloomy Jove, whose empty altars have enlarged our ills.
Servants bring in the sacrifice and then exit.
Eternal Jove, great master of the clouds, father of gladness and all frolic thoughts, that with thy gloomy hand corrects the heaven, when airy creatures war amongst themselves, hear, O hear Iarbus' plaining prayers, whose hideous echoes make the welkin howl, and all the woods Eliza to resound. The woman that thou wilt us entertain, where, straying in our borders up and down, she craved a hide of ground to build a town, with whom we did divide both laws and land, and all the fruits that plenty else sends forth, scorning our loves and royal marriage rites, yields up her beauty to a stranger's bed, who, having wrought her shame, is straightway fled. Now, if thou be'st a pitying God of power, on whom ruth and compassion ever waits, redress these wrongs, and warn him to his ships, that now afflicts me with his flattering eyes.
And enter Anna.
How now, Iarbus? your prayers so hard.
Aye, Anna, is there aught you would with me?
Nay, no such weighty business of import, but may be slacked until another time. Yet, if you would partake with me the cause of this devotion that detaineth you, I would be thankful for such courtesy.
Anna, against this Trojan do I pray, who seeks to rob me of thy sister's love and dive into her heart by coloured looks.
Alas, poor king, that labours so in vain for her that so delighteth in thy pain. Be wooed by me, and seek some other love, whose yielding heart may yield thee more relief.
Mine eye is fixed where fancy cannot start. Oh, leave me to my silent thoughts that register the numbers of my ruth, and I will either move the thoughtless flint or drop out both mine eyes in drizzling tears before my sorrow's tide have any stint.
I will not leave Iarbus, whom I love, in this delight of dying pensiveness. Away with Dido! Anna, be thy song, Anna, that doth admire thee more than heaven.
I may nor will list to such loathsome change that intercepts the course of my desire. Servants, come fetch these empty vessels here, for I will fly from these alluring eyes that do pursue my peace where'er it goes.
And Iarbus, servants to clear the stage.
Iarbus, stay! Loving Iarbus, stay! For I have honey to present thee with. Hard-hearted, wilt not deign to hear me speak? I'll follow thee with outcries ne'ertheless, and strew thy walks with my dishevelled hair.
And exit Anna. So that's we're really now getting into the actual depiction of Anna's love for Iarbus. I mean, it's hard for Anna, isn't it? But you know, so she gets this. What's wrong? Oh, I really like Dido. Do you really want? There's another sister. And yeah, it's Iarbus's exit lines for "I will fly from these alluring eyes." So you know, it's interesting. There is that a pride thing? What's going on there? I'm curious about that. I'll go to Alan then Lynn.
Yeah, I think the Iarbus reaction might be, well, if I can't get the queen, I'm damned if I'm going for second best. The thing that I did want to comment on was early on in that scene, we got this line from Iarbus. And all the woods Eliza to resound, which I don't understand what the reference is.
Yes, I think there are other Elizas available, but I'm not sure off the top of my head what they are. I don't think we're necessarily heading to our late lamented queen, but it's off the top of my head I don't know. I don't know if anyone in the room does, but that's definitely something we can find out. Or for that matter, maybe just a bit that gets trimmed, because it is a reference that I don't know the audience will necessarily automatically get. Lynn.
I assumed when Iarbus said he was going to fly the alluring eyes that it was actually Dido that he was running away from. Probably have said those instead of these, but it's really unclear. And what's the antecedent of it in the next line? That do pursue my peace. The eyes pursue his peace. Where'er it goes, is it peace? What? Yeah, that's just a really ambiguous line.
Yeah. Whereas Anna is slightly more straightforward, and in this situation, and it's an interesting little scene because you could simplify this scene if you wanted to run the two into each other, because you could basically remove the sacrifice element. You know, Iarbus could just simply fall onto his knees at the end of the previous scene, pray to the gods, and you just remove his opening and closing lines, which are just sort of bring some stuff on people and then take the stuff back off again, which is what he's doing there. That's actually not structurally an issue for an audio recording, because we just we can set up you can do cuts between scenes that are much more sharp in that way, whereas on a stage production, you kind of want a decent hard break between exits and entrances. So it's an odd little bit of business that. I quite like the idea of him going into a formal sacrifice mode, though. There's something really interesting about that, and then Anna breaking into that moment. With I say her intentions. I mean, it's yeah. You kind of wish Anna had a little bit more oomph to her. But again, everybody. It's that question: has Cupid stung Anna as well at some point, or is that a thing that's because that would be quite. It's a question of agency and also how different people are in love in different ways. Potentially, there might be some mileage in that. Alan.
I think actually leaving the formal sacrifice in might actually provide a bit of motivation for Iarbus of, I'm doing serious business here, sacrificing to the gods, and this silly girl's interfering.
It's the fact the servants are sort of nameless people. I mean, they do just feel like stagehands. They don't even feel like actors. It just feels like that. It's tech crew. Could you please clear the scene? Right, we have a little bit more before we're going to close this session, or close into additional thoughts of the session. Again, there isn't much. I mean, unless he's sacrificing a bull, I don't think there's much sound effects wise we need to worry about here. That might be a bit excessive. I won't go there. Act 4, Scene 3. We return to Aeneas.
Carthage, my friendly host, adieu. Since destiny doth call me from thy shore, Hermes this night, descended in a dream, hath summoned me to fruitful Italy. Jove wills it so, my mother wills it so. Let my Phonissa grant, and then I go. Grant she or no, Aeneas must away, whose golden fortunes, clogged with courtly ease, cannot ascend to fame's immortal house, or banquet in bright honour's burnished hall, till he hath furrowed Neptune's glassy fields, and cut a passage through his topless hills. Achates, come forth. Sergestus, Ilioneus, Cloanthus, haste away. Aeneas calls.
Enter his merry men.
What wills our lord, or wherefore did he call?
The dreams, brave mate, that did beset my bed when sleep but newly had embraced the night, commands me leave these unrenowned realms, whereas nobility abhors to stay, none but base Aeneas will abide. Aboard, aboard, since fates do bid aboard, and slice the sea with sable-coloured ships, on whom the nimble winds may all day wait, and follow them as footmen through the deep. Yet Dido casts her eyes like anchors out, and to stay my fleet from loosing forth the bay. Come back, I hear her cry afar, and let me think thy body to, and let me link thy body to my lips, that tied together by the striving tongues, we may as one sail into Italy.
Banish that ticing dame from forth your mouth, and follow your foreseeing stars in all. This is no life for men at arms to live, where dalliance doth consume a soldier's strength, and wanton motions of alluring eyes effeminate our minds, inured to war.
Why, let us build a city of our own, and not stand lingering here for amorous looks. Will Dido raise old Priam forth his grave, and build the town again the Greeks did burn? No, she cares not how we sink or swim, so she may have Aeneas in her arms.
To Italy, sweet friends, to Italy! We will not stay a minute longer here.
Trojans aboard, and I will follow you.
And they all exit apart from him.
I fain would go, yet beauty calls me back. To leave her so, and not say farewell, were to transgress against all laws of love. But if I use such ceremonious thanks as parting friends accustom on the shore, Her silver arms will coal me round about, and tears of pearl cry, "Stay, Aeneas, stay!" Each word she says will then contain a crown, and every speech be ended with a kiss. I may not dure this female drudgery. To sea, Aeneas, find out Italy.
And he exits. So it's the ebb and flow of his responsibilities. He's supposed to be here on this mission, and we have in a dream he's been called back to his mission. Later on again, he will literally. It's like, was the dream message not enough? I've had to come here in person. Later on, when Hermes turns up and just goes, "Thank you very he seems quite miffed, I think, actually, later on when that happens. And it's all the chaps once again. And it just goes to show, for a doubling sense, that you only need two of his mates, that you can happily have Achates say Cloanthus's line there. You need to make sure there are two voices, if necessary. And it's like we're sort of going, do we need suggesters? No, we don't really. He's an entirely pointless character. In fact, he's so pointless, he's not even in this scene. So we can give the impression of, and of course we can have more voices, but they don't need to be named voices, and that sort of works quite nicely. Let my Phoenician grant, and then I go. I don't know what that line means either. It's every so often there are so many classical allusions that I tend to miss two or three of them. Lynn.
That's Dido. She's Phoenician, so.
I see.
That's the name for Dido. Yeah.
Because Dido wouldn't scan in the line. That's why. Yeah, of course. Excellent. I say these things and then someone tells me the answer. That's the system. I like it. But yeah, this is the first of those sort of turnarounds, and we're going to keep getting them as we go into the final unit of action, really, as we go forward into where we're going next, which is what we'll be covering mostly next time. I'm feeling this one is all very straightforwardly sounds of the sea. We need some seagulls. He needs to be out looking out at his ships on the beach or something on the harbour side, going, oh, we should really go to sea, shouldn't we? That's what we should be doing. Those seagull sounds are probably going to be doing some mighty work. Thoughts. Aeneas at this point, he's just, again, it's such a turnaround. It's like he suddenly flips. There's no in between for him at all. He keeps going back and forth. Lynn.
It's sort of disappointing for me that the play doesn't stage the scene where Hermes comes and confers with Aeneas and says, I know you're having fun and everything, but you've got destiny. That he just talks about that. It's a really important sequence in the poem. And so this just seems so sort of quotidian compared to that. And we know he's got a Hermes costume backstage because Hermes was on stage in the first scene. He doesn't have a line, but there's stage directions about it. So why didn't we do it that way?
Well, I think the logic, because he will turn up in Act 5. So I think it's a sort of stepping up logic here, is that we start off with it's just in a dream, and then literally in Act 5 they keep upping the stakes. So Dido will pull Aeneas back in the later scenes of this act, and he'll go, okay, no, I'll stay. And then Hermes himself turns up and he's just sort of tapping his clipboard going, I think you'll find you should have left by now. Here's your ticket. If you'd like to make your way, here's your boarding pass. Get some sails from someone. I'm sure you can manage it. There's a really disgruntled Iarbus over there. He's a useful plot device. So I think that's the logic here, is that it's a progression. Other thoughts before we move in sort of overall final thoughts in going forward. So. Yeah, final thoughts in the room. We're 2/3 of the way through the play. We've got structurally, this is really, really nice. Unlike the first third of the play, where there was an awful lot of bits where I'm going, this is a little hard to follow. The opening of the play is remarkably opaque. Very little of this am I going, oh, I might need to take that out. I might need. There's one or two lines where it's a bit borderline where I'm going, I'm not that much of a fan of Aeneas going off on one there. I'm not a fan. But it's a line. It's two lines. It's there's very little here that is actually wasted. If anything, it's kind of the reverse. I kind of wish we could email Marlowe and Nashe and say, can we have a few more scenes? Because there's some good stuff here. I'd quite like a little bit more. So that's quite nice. But nothing here is structurally worrying me in the same way. You can take some of this out, but I don't think you should. I might tweak some of the bits where the magic happens. We need to indicate that clearly. And who Cupid is at any one time needs to be nicely clear. But I say Cupid just needs to giggle every so often, just an evil giggle, and you're sort of there. Alan?
I think I haven't spotted anything that really is needing to be cut because it's too long or whatever. Where I do think there is some tweak needed for an audio version is a sort of voice of the book, just to make it clear who is on stage or who is doing what at particular times, because some of it I think would be extremely clear if it was being acted out on stage, but doesn't come over purely from speech.
I'm not so sure, because almost none of these scenes have not featured someone coming on, my good Achates. Everybody's saying each other's name. I mean, Dido and Aeneas say that each other's name repeatedly. And there may be some name pops we need to put in. But actually, there's only about 4 people who, ignoring God, so actually say anything that's substantive. And everybody else is always saying each other's names. So I'm not sure we need. I'm not feeling the need of a narrator for this at all at the moment. But maybe in the cut, we'll see later on. Final thoughts from the room. This session felt a lot more straightforward than the last one. This is telling the story fairly efficiently. I don't know, Francis, you weren't here last time. Any final thoughts about this middle section of Dido?
Well, I'm completely new to this play, and I'm loving it because we read Aeneas, the Aeneid at school, or this part of it anyway, and it's just, I suppose it's a tribute to the power of the story that I remember so many of the details. The cave and the storm and the prophecy. So I'm loving the play. It's I think it's beautifully written, and I agree with you. There isn't that much you need to cut, really. It's very economical. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be here tomorrow.
Well, never mind. I'm sure we'll come back to Dido many, many times because they're if I'm being cynical, they're very successful as videos. Dido is a popular play, so I am sure we will come back to it many, many times in different forms. Lynn, any final thoughts on Dido? You're muted at present, so. Wisdom is flying and hitting a wall.
I read this years ago when I was sort of like, I'm going to read all of Marlowe, which isn't hard. There's only 7. I'm not liking it as well as I remember liking it. The relationships seem a little underdeveloped. I think, like, in my memory, I added sort of detail and depth. But there's no telling what good actors can do. I think particularly in an actually staged production where you have visuals, you can make it clear from the beginning that Anna is just obsessed with Iarbus. And Iarbus is head over heels for Dido, and she's kind of lukewarm on him, but she's kind of like, yeah, maybe I'll marry him eventually. And I'd be really curious to see what good actors, unlike myself, would do with Aeneas and Dido, because they're not actually very. I don't think they're easy characters to portray persuasively and without the seams showing. You never really know what's going on in Aeneas's head. I mean, like, what's his sort of overall goal?
It's interesting because last time we were able to talk about Aeneas a lot about his PTSD. I mean, it was the fact that he was so clearly traumatized by war in the previous thing, and in a sense, the moment that sort of dropped, that he's been able to relax a little bit at court, that he becomes fundamentally a less interesting character because he's just there to be to leave and be noble, and there's a certain amount where the actor has to make that flow and move forward. I'll come back to Lynn in just a moment. I'll go to Emma. Any final thoughts?
I think it reads really well. Just kind of going through the characters that I was reading. Cupid, very obvious. I think he's being completely manipulative the whole time. But yeah, I think talking about kind of how he's Cupid and not the real son. I think maybe some kind of audio motif, I don't know, or maybe a kind of his voice being slightly heightened in a way that the characters don't notice, but the people listening on audio would notice. So yeah, however the actor wants to do that. And then the scene between the goddesses, like you said, it's not necessarily crucial to the plot, but I feel like it's such a fun scene to do and to stage that it would be a shame to lose that one. But yeah, something to think about. And then finally, Anna. Yeah, I mean, she. It's very obvious what her intentions are throughout. She's trying to get Iarbus the whole time, and that final scene we just read is quite sad, really, because she. She's just laying her soul bare at that point. She's basically laying it all out, and very obviously, and yeah.
It's not going. It's not.
Just, it doesn't land, does it? Yeah.
He's not worth it. He's not worth it.
You just leave it. Just leave it. And then her final line: "And strew thy walks with my dishevelled hair." She's going to pull her hair out and leave it wherever he goes. Gosh, yes, yeah.
Back to Lynn, if you have more.
Yeah, before allergies interrupted. Yeah, and then the problem with Dido is she seems so glorious when we first meet her. Sarah was noticing this in the first session, that she's just like this star. And so she's so self-assured and so powerful, and so much her own person. She's in a power position. She's got money and power, and Aeneas basically is a shipwrecked nobody. And then she devolves from that into a lovesick schoolgirl, and that's just sort of disappointing. Like, how do you portray that and bring the audience with you so they're not disappointed in you as a character?
Yeah, and again, we mentioned Lily earlier. It's like the is it The Woman in the Moon, where you've got this central female character who's buffeted by godlike actions that changes her personality in a second, again and again and again. Okay, it only happens once here, but it has a certain schematic quality to it, which slightly. It becomes a harder thing to act, and a hard thing for an audience to take to a degree as well. We talk a lot about agency these days, and it is something that audiences would like to see people have more of. Alan, any additional final thoughts?
Yeah, I must admit, I do find the two lead characters to be somewhat two-dimensional. There's not really that much sign of any depth with either of them. And I suppose that probably is back to the thesis of many of the Greek fables, myths, whatever you want to call them, that he's based on, of man as the mercy of the fates. That they are simply playing pieces for the gods. And that, I think, does cause its own set of problems.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of what the play is about. It's we are the gods chess pieces here. And yeah, I'll go to Stephen. Any final thoughts for your first session?
Yeah, I just thought I think the particular scenes that we've read today just bring out I think some of the strengths of the play, or the potential strengths, and that you can. Marlowe does give you sort of some looks into the sort of the psychology of the characters, rather than just loading us all with the kind of the mythological background. So, with Iarbus, for example, I noticed how he's motivated by some very petty things and some very practical things. As a king, he's going to want property, he's going to want Carthage, all of those things. So I think it's a kind of it's finding that tension between the mythological side of it and the real people, and thinking about what Alan was saying about Dido and Aeneas. I think there is a sense maybe that Aeneas is reading earlier in the play there. Maybe he is traumatized by the fall of Troy, because he describes it in some detail, doesn't he?
Mm.
So it's obviously something that stayed with him. So I wonder if that's something that the actor would sort of play with. To what extent is he still sort of dealing with all of that stuff? I just think it's interesting when you can bring out those sort of internal tensions, along with all the romance and the mythology and all that stuff.
Yeah. Kyle, any final thoughts?
I really love the language in certain speeches. I mean, like Aeneas's language, I was just looking at, for example, and there's a bunch of these where there's this kind of combination of a noun and a verb, and they're really kind of well done. Like the bright honors burnished hall, the glassy fields and topless hills. I think you can really hear the sound of Marlowe in those lines. But I don't know, they don't seem to match the character that well, which is weird.
Anything else from the room at this point? We have one more session. It's all going to end happily, and everyone's going to be really cheerful. Everyone's definitely going to survive, and no one will burn to death. So on that cheery note, I'm going to thank the readers for all their wonderful reading. You too can join us online. These sessions are open to all. We do many weeks of the year, most of the year round. We occasionally take breaks, but there are sign-up forms on the website, and we do usually about 4 sessions a week. So you can always join us if you'd like to read some other plays from the canon. At the time of recording this, we're mostly working on plays from the 17th century, early 17th century, but we do dip back to plays in the Elizabethan and earlier as well. So you can always join us if you so. You too can be here and have a little box on screen. All the remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.